Hello everyone, it's Richard Lewis here again with another video. Today, just a little bit of fun, kind of a quick one, something to throw out there in some downtime, but with a serious point kind of woven into what I hope is funny and amuses you. It certainly amused me. Those of you who follow my work know that one of the things that I'm very passionate about is kind of journalism and kind of its declining standards. And in particular, I don't think there's any industry. I mean, political journalism has gone to shit. That's very obvious. But games journalism in particular, I don't think anything has been quite as subject to such an unbelievable decline in standards and relevance to its supposed audience as games journalism. It always is startling to me. These last 4 years in particular have just really, I know, like I grew up with good games journalism. I grew up reading Crash and Your Sinclair magazine and then Computer and Video Games. Used to religiously go out and buy those magazines. And even, 5-6 years ago, there were publications I would read as a matter of course, which all seem now to just be incredibly irrelevant to games, to the art of, the act of gaming, rather. I can get much more reliable reviews that actually talk about things I need to know, not the inherent narrative within a game, which is fine. That's critique. There's definitely a place for that, but that seems to be the only thing that matters to games journalist publications these days. But I can get reviews on Metacritic, which are reliable. Certainly, the general reception from a broad cross-section of gamers seems to be much more accurate than the critics, which will sort of inject their own politics into it, rather than just talking about the game itself. Steam reviews are a thing now. I find that to be a pretty reliable metric. Very often, a games review will miss a sort of glaring bug or a cap in the game where your enjoyment is going to be stilted. Someone who's played 200 hours is very equipped to tell me about that, rather than somebody that played 10 because they've got a deadline to hit and would rather be writing about something else. So it's kind of, and that's before I even get into YouTubers and critics that we have and people that aren't beholden to publishers and certainly don't seem to have the relationships with indie developers. I can get much more reliable, informed, long-form critique from critics and people like Joseph Anderson, who's had like an incredible breakout, is just much more relevant to games critique than anybody writing for one of these publications, which can barely mask their contempt. Can they? For gamers. They hate gamers. They hate games if they're not of a particular subject matter. And it's just sad. It's just sad what's happened to games journalism. I think the cardinal sin, though, is very often these games journalists don't even understand how the world of gaming works and how marketing works. And these are things that they should understand. And I saw an unbelievable example of it just the other day that I wanted to share with you. So you just get an idea of how fucking worthless most of these publications are, honestly. I look forward to being subject to yet another hit piece now as a result of this video, which they will religiously watch because I'm on a little watch list. I'm in Slack groups and Discords, guys. Oh no, they're coming for me. But let's just have a look. So Dr. Disrespect, I think you all know how I feel about the doc. Talked about the doc a lot. He's had a very up and down career of late, mostly up. Some people are being needlessly pathetic, borderline cruel, as he tries to make his comeback, but that comes from being a public figure. And yes, Dr. Disrespect tweeted this: "Dear Blue Balls Incorporated." Now, that's his affectionate name for Bluehole, who make PUBG. We all know Dr. Disrespect really sort of helped propel that game into the mainstream after he moved away from H1Z1 and some of the flaws that he felt that game had. And obviously as well, and this just goes without saying, I feel games journalists miss this quite often. Dr. Disrespect, first of all, he's a character. He's not really a doctor, okay? And he's not called even if he wasn't a doctor, which he isn't, he's not called Disrespect. The clue is in the name. Dr. Disrespect. He has a disrespectful persona. I mean, this is mind-blowing shit, but you actually have to explain this to games journalists. They can't grasp that it's a character, even though it's quite clearly a character. They don't get it. They think this is who, the guy behind Dr. Disrespect, Guy Bream, actually is. You have 5 days to put an Elite Doc skin in PUBG, or I'm done playing your game for good. Period. Have a good day. And just to show how unruffled he is. There he is in full Dr. Disrespect getup, driving some golf balls down the fairway. So, immediately, right? Like, I don't know. Maybe, guys, let's do a test. Option 1, this is a joke. Option 2, this is a joke that's going to segue into potentially having a skin in the game. Or option 3, this is a genuine threat towards Bluehole, and he's really going to leave if he doesn't get what he wants. Okay. So out of those options, I'll let you type in the chat. Obviously, this is a YouTube video, so you can't do that. But, it's clearly 1 or 2, isn't it? 2 is actually the least likely, I think. But certainly, it's option 1 or 2. You would have to be deranged. You would have to not understand the character, how the industry works, the relationship between Dr. Disrespect and PUBG. He's been one of their biggest advertising tools down the years. You would have to be a complete moron to think it was genuine. So, I will introduce you to a PC gamer journalist called Evan Larty, who came out and immediately reacted to this, right? And said, cool. He's being sarcastic there, by the way. He doesn't think it's cool. Cool that we've reached the point where an influencer is holding themselves hostage unless a game meets their demands to promote them and earn them money. Playful or not, this stuff adds to the antagonism we've seen grow between players and devs in the past few years. Right. So he thinks that tweet made by a fictitious character is real. And he also thinks that even if it isn't, it somehow contributes to players being antagonistic to developers. What does he mean when he says players being antagonistic to developers? Actually, what that means is you disgusting players out there who pay for a product, basically saying we would like the product to be better, improved. And look, I think as a rule, gamers definitely harbor some of the most entitled losers in any fandom on the internet. I'm very public about that. Even though gamers make up a large portion of my audience, I know enough about that subsection to speak openly about it, and I'm not afraid to. I don't need to pretend all gamers are great people to make my bread and butter. But I'm not a fake like that. So there are definitely assholes. I've seen them. But the reality is you cannot conflate antagonism with like some of the harassment we see. I think if you go after a developer for not putting a feature in a game or putting a feature in a game you don't like and you issue death threats and all that, you're a piece of shit. You shouldn't be on the fucking internet. You need to be in a cell learning how to not be deranged and come back to society at a later date. If, however, you're one of the people tweeting saying, this feature sucks, I will not buy your game while this feature's in it, I will not buy microtransactions, I will not play your game, I want this to improve, I don't think that's antagonistic. That's the right of a consumer to voice disapproval of a product you are paying for, and also to suggest improvements. Okay? So, unfortunately, there's no nuance in games journalism anymore. If you criticize the developer for any reason, you are a serial harasser. You're probably pro-Gamergate, which we all know was an alt-right plan to bring white supremacy to modern America. That's what games journalists believe. Funded by Russia. They believe that too. That's what they say. So when I see things like this, I am immensely embarrassed because even at just a surface take, it just shows you first of all don't respect gamers at all, their audience, or you as a journalist in the space, you have very little interest in the consumer rights of a gamer, and equally you don't understand how marketing works. You do not understand at all. Now, what's interesting is Dr. Disrespect obviously responded to this. It's good to see Doc kind of getting back on his horse and basically, you know, coming out and being more like his old self. I think that's, you know, very important to kind of, you know, get him back to where he is. He's had to go through a lot of shit publicly to basically kind of, you know, get back to being a regular streamer.
What did he say about?
So what I'll do is I'll just bring this clip up for you. Wait and see where he reacted to it. Hope the doc doesn't mind me using a clip. I'm sure he won't. He's we've used clips before, but this is his reaction to it. It's pretty funny.
What did he say about my statement? Let's go ahead and read it in his voice.
Cool that we've reached a point where an influencer is holding themselves hostage unless a game meets their demands to promote them and earn them money. Playful or not, this stuff right here, this stuff adds to the antagonism we've seen grown between players and devs in the past few years. Shame on you, Dr. Disrespect! Shame on you for what you do!
So, yeah, it's a pretty accurate interpretation. I think it's a very feeble kind of criticism, and it shows that you don't understand anything about what's going on here. Now, very quickly, it occurred to me that, well, this actually might be leading into a marketing campaign, because there was going to be, you know, PUBG were sort of hinting there was going to be some improvements. PUBG very much seemed to be in on this. I think they responded on their official Twitter. So imagine being a games journalist and not having the resources at your disposal. When you write for PC Gamer, one of the biggest publications in the space, and you cannot figure out, you don't reach out to Dr. Disrespect, you don't reach out to Shroud, you don't reach out to Bluehole, you don't reach out to Twitch, you don't reach out to anybody to ascertain whether or not this is a marketing campaign before you publicly go on a tirade about how inappropriate it is. Now, of course, this is the point where we know, oh, it was an advertising campaign all along for some skins that are going to be in the game. Looks like they gave in to the ultimatum. It's amazing being an international video game superstar. New skins coming soon with Shroud. And as you can see here, it was also officially announced by Twitch as well. It's actually Twitch are in on the promotion. You have to sort of get the weapon skins through Twitch to do it. So this is a four-way partnership between Dr. Disrespect, Shroud, and their representation, PUBG, Bluehole, and Twitch. Think about all of the people involved in this that a games journalist should have a tie to. Let me tell you about Twitch, first of all. They are some of the most approachable people. They've got hundreds of employees. I'm sure many they don't even fucking need, if we're being honest about it. Just loads of people. Like, what do you do for Twitch? Whatever. I work for Twitch. There are so many people you can approach to get comments about this. You should know these people in your line of work. And if you ever see something like that going on, before you make a fucking chump out of yourself, maybe you might want to just ask a question to one of these people. Certainly as well, Bluehole has a lot of employees. I'll also tell you, I guarantee you, Dr. Disrespect and Shroud's representation would have probably loved to have an article about, you know, playing up to the fact that he was threatening to leave, but would have told you the truth if you'd only asked about it. But this is games journalism. So rather than do any journalism, rather than actually engage in an act that could be construed as journalism, they'd rather jump to some conclusions, get on their moral high horses, sermonize about how gamers are trash, and stuff like this doesn't help, and it just makes the scene worse, and how terrible it is for them. And yeah, they just embarrass themselves every fucking time. So yeah, I had to show that to you. Actually, at the time of recording this, there's another thing breaking now about Steam, and games journalists are going crazy about it because Steam have basically said, we're gonna, if a game isn't illegal or isn't a troll, we're gonna allow it on our open platform to sell games and let the consumers decide. And games journalists are outraged about this. You consumers with getting companies to support your rights. This is an outrage. Valve is terrible. There's going to be, I can hear the clacking of food-encrusted keyboards right now as these games journalists, glorified bloggers, are going to try and write articles about how, Steam is evil and Valve is evil and this is terrible. It's happening right now, I'm telling you. I'm going to do an in-depth video about them as soon as they arrive. But I had to record this. It's fucking absurd that this is just the state of games journalism. Congrats to Dr. Disrespect and Shroud on the promotion. I'm sure it's going to be awesome. Shout out to all the guys at Bluehole and PUBG as well. Yeah, there you have it. Fucking what a joke. Anyway, thanks for watching the video. Hope you enjoyed it. Hope you laugh at these people as much as I do. And I'll see you on the next one. Toodles.